It's Extra Shot. Welcome back. I'm Jack. Zach is with me.
Hello, Jack.
Hello, how are you?
I am good, thank you. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. On the pod today, refs on the sesh, Donald Trump cheating on the golf course, and Des Lynam is a dirty dog. I feel bad even saying those words, but I'm also quite excited to talk about it. How you doing? Big week. Mike Tyson is back in the ring.
Yeah, it's going to be on at 4 a.m, so I almost definitely will not watch it.
Yeah, but, Saturday morning. Something nice, if my son wakes me up early.
You can log on to Netflix.
I'll be like, do you want to come and watch a horrible man being possibly knocked out in a boxing match? Yeah, we'll probably get Netflix on, I would have thought.
Do you have Netflix already? Have you got your subscription?
I've got ways of watching. Let's just say. All right. I don't want to go to jail for 4 years, so I'll leave it at that. I just saw a picture before we started recording of, Nuno Tavares, who's the Arsenal left back. I think he's at Lazio now. He's just got his call up for the Portuguese national team, and it's become a bit of a thing now to like show all the players arriving, and like if it's the French team, they all wear these like insane, overly trendy outfits. But Nuno Tavares is wearing a t-shirt that it's got like a silhouette of a woman taking down her pants, and it says "Only 18 plus." Just like,
sort of like a warning sign kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of t-shirt a 14-year-old boy might wear. Yeah. Sort of like, those FBI female body inspector t-shirts.
My friend used to have one that said "the man, the legend," that there was an arrow pointing up for the man and an arrow pointing down for the legend.
Yeah, classic
humour.
You'll be on holiday in like Turkey, and there'll just be like a guy randomly walking through, doesn't speak any English, but he's just wearing a t-shirt that says, "I Facebooked your mum." I absolutely love those t-shirts. If anyone's seen a good one, send them in. Yeah. I would like to make it a regular thing. Obviously, the real favourite is "Afraid of the Dark Side," Lager Boy.
Yeah, that's a classic.
But yeah, Mickey sometimes sends me some really good ones, so I might get a few off him. Some of them are quite out there. To be continued. We've all been there where you're lying in bed after a heavy sesh, you're staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, daylight is spilling through the curtains, and suddenly you're struck by the fear. You become incredibly anxious about what you'd done and said the night before. Were my jokes a bit far? Was I trying to persuade the cab driver to buy Dogecoin for a bit too long? Was I a bit too enthusiastic when my mate said he wants to leave his wife? But next time you find yourself in the grips of the fear, just think of Premier League referee David Coote, because Cootie has been done like a kipper this week in a couple of videos taken during a sesh. So on Monday, these two videos popped up online, and they show David Coote sat on a sofa, we think about 4 years ago, and he's talking about a Liverpool game that he'd been fourth official for that day. And he's laying in to both Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp.
What did you think of the Liverpool game earlier when you were fourth official?
Liverpool was shit.
What do you think of Jurgen Klopp?
Cunt, absolutely.
What would you say? Why would you say that Jurgen Klopp was a cunt?
Aside from having a right pop at me when I refed them against Burnley in lockdown, then he accused me of lying, and then just had a right fucking pop at me, and I've got no interest in speaking to somebody who's fucking arrogant. So I do my best not to speak to him. Milner's alright. I get on with so
James Milner. You get someone James Milner.
You can see me there with mask on.
Yeah. Mask on, obviously.
Yeah. COVID, got to be done. Social distancing, right? We're 2 meters apart.
We have to social distance.
Yeah. So, but oh my god, German cunt, fuck me.
So yeah, pretty incriminating. The German cunt bit at the end probably really caps it off for him.
Pretty sure he's gonna lose his job over this. He's been suspended. But part of me wonders whether, like, how bad is this? I'm sure all refs do this. Like, you come back after a game and you're with your mates And they're sort of like, oh, so what's Pep like? It's like, he's a fucking cunt. Like,
But is he with his mates or is he with a random bloke he's met at the
does-
pub, shared a bag of cheap coke with, and then sat on a sofa with? Like, who is that guy? We'll come on to that and the aftermath. But fortunately, Coot had an ingenious plan to stop this video ever getting out.
Right, like, just to be clear, that fucking last video can't go anywhere. Seriously.
He's a Premier League referee. Let's not fucking ruin his career. Like, let's face it, we're good blokes, but we can't ruin a bloke's career. Like, we're not that bad. Also, he's a fucking legend.
They both look fucking spangled. I mean, the bloke he's with,
Yeah.
his eyes are like half closed. He's just about
going
peering.
in different directions.
Yeah. Coot, yeah, I mean, he looks worse for wear, let's say. I have no evidence that any drugs were consumed, but definitely a lot of beers were. Yeah, and I just love the idea of being like, just that video can't go anywhere. And to be fair, I think what's happened is the video didn't go anywhere for a while. So this video was about 4 years ago, we reckon, because they talk about COVID and the last Liverpool game he was on until very recently, and the Liverpool game he was on as fourth official where he argued with Klopp, that was in 2020. So obviously that's got posted in some sort of group chat, and it looks like they all kept it secret for a while. But I reckon last week someone showed a friend the video, and the friend was like, "Send it to me," and it's made its way out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so predictable that was going to come out at some point. Like, as I said, I think all refs probably have that conversation with their mates in the comforts of their own home, but like filming yourself doing it is just fucking stupid.
Also, Liverpool's probably the worst team they could have said it about, because there's already a bit of a sense of like
Yeah.
like referee bias among some Liverpool
Everton
fans.
would have been pretty
Yeah,
funny.
Everton would have been great. Dock them some points for that. Interestingly, people pointed out that after that row he had with Klopp, he hadn't been on another Liverpool game for 4 years. And there's some speculation that they actually deliberately took him off it because they'd seen the video, but I don't think I'm buying that. I saw a few journalists tweeting that yesterday, but don't know if that's true.
I kind of feel like, because this whole thing has been one of the funniest episodes to hit football this season, and I kind of feel like Sky Sports are sitting on a bit of a golden egg here. Like, their refereeing coverage is normally so dry. It's like they've got like Howard Webb in the studio, like fawning over some screenshots and being like, "Oh, this is obviously if you freeze it here, you can see that Gabriel Magalhaes' arm is outstretched, which does contravene Rule 32.3." It's like that is so dry. Just get the refs into the studio after the game, sit them on the sofa, give them a bag of gear. and
Yeah,
just
who do
like,
you fucking hate?
So, what's Sean Dyche like?
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
The coverage has been quite po-faced in the media. Although I another good tweet I saw, Liz, our sometime producer, showed me. A guy tweeted it saying, "If it's any consolation to David Coote, I saw this without the sound and assumed he'd been caught by those pedo hunters." It does slightly have that quality, the video.
Yeah.
Anyway, Coote has now acknowledged that the video is real, but he said he, quote, "does not recall the content of the discussion," which, not a huge surprise, does tend to happen if you go home with a random bloke from the pub after 12 Stellas and a bag of something. The ref's body, PGMOL, have suspended him while they investigate. I guess is it a crime? Not a crime, but is it a,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I mean,
dereliction of his duties?
Yeah. He hasn't really done anything that wrong. It's not like he's saying that he is being biased against Liverpool. He's saying that
He said Liverpool
he thinks-
played shit,
he
which is
said Liverpool
irrelevant.
played shit. He didn't say Liverpool are shit. He said Jurgen Klopp's a bit of a cunt, which is an opinion. I won't comment on that.
It's his honest opinion.
But like, I also saw clips from the end of that game, and at the end, I think it was Andy Robertson was coming off being just like bollocking, being like, "What? You were useless today, ref. What's the point of you even being here?"
Right, yeah.
Da da da. And like Klopp was giving him a hard time as well. Which, you know, you can imagine that you come home after that and somebody asks you, "What were these people you were at work with like today?" And it's like, absolute bastard.
Yeah. Do you do that at the end of the day?
I do that almost every day. Yeah, I come home and yeah, Jack's a fucking.
I presume you're
honestly.
referring to Yaz, our producer.
Yeah, she's honestly, yeah, you should German cunt.
Yeah, I guess, but obviously if you become a Premier League referee, and fuck knows who'd want to do that, but obviously you can't be talking about who you like and don't like.
Yeah,
It's a uniquely sensitive role. He'll be off for a Saudi payday instead, I guess. There's also a rather interesting screenshot doing the rounds, which maybe teases that there's even more to this. So someone posted a screenshot of their messages with an unknown recipient. And it says, "No way that David Coote finally got leaked for being a weirdo." And then there's a still from a video of David Coote. It looks like he's on the same sofa, but he's topless. And he's got a similar look in his eye. I don't know if it's from the same night. It sort of suggests there might be more. The guy with him in the video, who it turns out is a recruiter, which I do not find shocking at all, and a retired county cricketer, that guy's been suspended by his recruitment firm on full pay. So I don't think he's done anything wrong. Like, I know everyone takes all this public shit, like what you post on Twitter, very seriously now, but I don't think we're at the stage where like executive recruiters need to not be biased against Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, what has he done wrong? Really?
Just been in a video.
Bringing his company into disrepute, but like, I don't know.
Maybe they're just like, you're at the centre of this thing, you need a break. He's not even at the centre of it. No one even knew who he was till they released a statement. There is something very fun about the idea of referees on the sesh. It's very spotting your teacher outside of school in a pub. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't really think of them as real people.
Yeah.
And then they do something like this. There's a story that's doing the rounds again as a result of this from 2019, when Kevin Friend, Martin Atkinson and Andre Mariner, aka Dre, were on a charity trip to Indonesia. I think Atkinson's involved with this charity where they go and like, I think they were like buying these children bicycles, but then they went out that night in this, I think they're on an island in Indonesia, and the headline in one of the tabloids was, "Married Premier League referees on a charity trip behaved like randy young footballers as they posed with party girls on a boozy night out in Indonesia." I had a look at the story. It's just like, they're like hugging these women, these Indonesian women in a bar, like, I don't know if anyone's actually doing anything wrong.
They've just gone to a bar and somebody's recognised them.
Yeah, there is a surprising amount of hugging, I would say. Not like arm around the shoulder for photos, but like one standing behind the
really?
other. But
Okay.
I still don't think anything's wrong with it. But whichever tabloid did this then went and doorstepped poor Martin Atkinson's mother-in-law. They said that we visited her at her home and she said she'll be, quote, having a word with him, which is really good.
I mean, to be fair, they are definitely not used to having to deal with anything like that, right? Like, I imagine referees were pretty dry when they were growing up, that their parents never really had to deal with like the police turning up on the doorstep that they...
Yeah, what you think they were just naturally very well behaved and studious. I don't know if that's definitely true. Who was the ref we talked about who went to like an under-9s game and then got in a fight with the referee because his kid got like a bad decision?
Yeah, I think it was Clattenburg. I don't know if he got in a fight, but
he was
definitely
sent
bothering
off
the
or
ref.
something,
Yeah.
wasn't he? He was sent away. But yeah, I guess. Definitely the worst part about being involved in one of these scandals is having to explain it to your mum and mother-in-law. Which presumably is what poor old David Coote is doing.
I was just thinking, actually, if we do need to ascertain whether he's actually biased against Liverpool, check his parrot.
Yeah. If that reference means absolutely nothing to you, listen to was it last week we talked about?
It was maybe 2 weeks ago.
About the La Liga referee, Paz Pajeres, who has a pet parrot that was whistling a Real Madrid anthem during an interview he did. And then it turned out there was another ref whose parrot could say "fuck Barca."
Did he say cabron, which means bastard?
Oh yeah, you'd say Barcelona to him and he'd say cabrones, which means like assholes or something like that. I'm sure someone will correct me.
Yeah, referees all have birds.
Yeah, we do need to check David Coote's parrot. That's quite a good...
Coot is a bird, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, type of duck.
Oh,
You know,
right.
the black ones with the white head.
Right.
don't know what that... He's guilty.
Yeah. Guilty as hell. Yeah, I think that's good shorthand for us now to checking bias. You just say check his parrot.
Check his parrot,
Yeah.
So the other big news this week was that, as everyone's expecting, Gary Lineker is stepping down from hosting Match of the Day at the end of the season. So presumably Gary is currently on his way to Parliament Square to set up his pop-up tent.
He offered to take a pay cut because he's on 1.3 million at the BBC, and he said, I want to renew my contract, I'll take a pay cut. And they were like, no, we just want you out. Which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a few sort of controversies. His his tweets about government policy and stuff, which didn't go down too well with some people.
Yeah, nothing too
Which to me, I mean,
scandalous, yeah.
I think he had the audacity to have an opinion about something. Is my take on it. And to be fair, I think he's done pretty well to last 25 years hosting Match of the Day without being engulfed with the kind of scandal that hit the likes of Jermaine Genius and his predecessor Des Lynam. Yes, yes, that Des Lynam. So, you know, for me, Des Lynam has this sort of like kindly grandfather figure.
Sort of national treasure territory.
Yeah, for me, he was like the cuddly face of Sunday morning. You know, you'd wake up to watch highlights of Mark Viduka and James Beattie to a soundtrack of U2.
So is that, you're talking about...
I'm talking about the Premiership.
Right,
You know, Des
yeah.
Lynam, he hosted Match of the Day before Gary Lineker, and he also hosted the Premiership.
You've got to be one of the few people who remembers him for the Premiership.
That was sort of my early days of being into football.
Yeah, that's when he defected to ITV.
He defected to
isn't it?
ITV, and they had the Premier League highlights for a little while. So anyway, that was my image of him as this sort of cuddly face of morning TV. But it turns out that Des was an absolute dirty dog. So let me take you back to the heady days of 1995 when Des was voted the person Britons would most want as their next door neighbour. Which proved to be a bit of an omen because 2 years later he began a whirlwind affair with his next door neighbour in Chiswick. So she ends up selling her story to the press, and she explains that basically after months of flirting, it all came to a head one night in August 1997. So I'm just going to read you a little bit from her kiss and tell. After midnight, on the night of Princess Diana's death, when he had finished presenting Match of the Day, Lynam just burst through the front door. We went upstairs and he started kissing me. He kept saying he couldn't believe it was finally happening, and he dreamt about this for 2 years. So
Wow.
my first question about this, what was it about Princess Diana's death that was such a turn on after months of
Everyone knew where they
flirting?
were on Princess Diana's death.
Yeah.
Can you imagine at a dinner party, so where were you? And she's just thinking, I had Des Lynam's tongue in my mouth. That's where I was.
Yeah, well,
Hang
so
on, so did he just eventually after 2 years of flirting, he just rang the doorbell at midnight?
at midnight, he was, he just needed someone to dissect Diana's death with.
What, and she just opened the door and her next door neighbour just kissed her?
I don't know. Well, yeah, they
Could have gone very differently for Des.
He definitely more than kissed her. So
God.
she gives a very graphic account. She describes Des Lynam as a 6 times a night man.
Fucking hell. Really?
Yeah, it's not what you expect.
Des Lynam?
Des Lynam. She says we were dead the next morning. It felt very good. I'd say he'd been very creative in bed.
Right, what does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Positions,
I
not
really
position.
don't want to know.
Yeah, I do, but
Yeah,
six times a night.
6 times a night.
I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've ever done that myself.
No,
and Des Lynam at the
Des Lynam,
time,
he must
he
have
was
been in his 60s. I guess.
already, yeah. And, you know, he's been working all evening presenting Match of the Day and probably quite emotionally drained by Diana's death, as we all were. Match of the Day is on at like, in those years, it was on at about 10:50 p.m.
Yeah.
So he gets to hers after midnight.
Well
then-
after midnight.
And then he puts in 6 shags.
Yes.
Fuck, I'm impressed.
He's a machine.
That's professional. He always was a consummate professional.
He really was, yeah. And what I also discovered from reading this, which surprised me, having seen pictures of Des Lynam as this sort of grey-haired, mustachioed Match of the Day presenter, that he was an absolute sex symbol. So Des also, in the past, had flings with a Bond girl. He had another fling with Anita Dobson from EastEnders, if you're familiar with her. The actress Rachel Weisz, who I don't think they were ever romantically involved, but she described him anyway as, she said, Des is more charismatic than practically any actor I've come across. He's got real movie star eyes and that slow burn, smouldering quality.
And she is married to James Bond as well.
Yeah, who's she married to?
Daniel Craig.
Oh, right.
Yeah, this and yet Des Lynam is the most charismatic.
You know how some
she's
couples
ever
have an
met.
agreement, there's certain celebrities who you could cheat with. She's told Daniel Craig, for me it's going to be Des.
Yeah, it's just something about how he pops up after the credits of after the intro segment of Match of the Day. It's just such a turn on. I also, digging through the 90s newspaper archives, came across an article from 1999, which I wanted to read a bit from. I also want to emphasize this is 1999. This isn't like his 70s pomp.
Yeah, because in the 70s he maybe was.
He was fairly, he was good looking.
Looked a bit like sort of Starsky and Hutch, the one with the moustache.
Yeah, but this was his Match of the Day era. The article opens: every woman in the room was all a Twitter at their prospect of meeting Desmond Lynam, whatever all a Twitter means.
Geekily and excited.
It says the ladies could barely contain their excitement. It carries on: roguishness is part of his charm, that twinkle in the eye business. There's always a suggestion with Des that he's got a racy background. I almost can't read this. You can imagine him in the corner of the bar saying, "My dear, would you like to come to my room?" Pulling on a silk dressing gown and opening champagne. You get the impression that Des would be pretty good in bed. I'm reading this, it's like, are we talking about the same Des Lynam here? Was there like another hot young host of Match of the Day by the name of Des Lynam? But I've looked into it and there wasn't. This is the same Des Lynam who, I mean, my impression of Des Lynam is that, you know, you get too close and you notice that there's long wiry hairs protruding from his ears, like some coming out of his nose as well. He smells faintly of Werther's Originals. Turns out he's an absolute Adonis. It's really, I think it's got to be...
He's definitely got a hanky in his pocket.
It's got to be the biggest sort of comeback in terms of my perception of a TV personality.
Yeah, this is like hearing that Father Christmas or David Attenborough is a sex symbol. It's like, that's not the category he belongs in. If I was going to make a case for the defence, he's got a very smooth voice.
He does, yeah.
And he was a very, just a bit like Lineker, very calm and just sort of like composed on TV and quite witty. You know that, like, there's the England-Germany Euro 96 semi-final and it begins and he's like, good evening. I expect you've heard there's a football match on this evening. He's quite sort of just dry, like bit of wit, bit of a twinkle in the eye. God, I'm starting to feel a bit drawn in by those twinkling eyes. Yeah. And I guess because I remember him from sort of, you know, the 90s and you remember him from the Premiership era, but maybe if you sort of knew him in the 70s and 80s, you'd experienced him more as a sex symbol. Yeah. But still, that article was written, did you say 1998?
It was 1999, this article.
99, so he's...
And Rachel Weisz is married to Daniel Craig.
I mean, she was about 20 at this point as well, and probably could have slept with anyone in Hollywood, but for her it's Des, who's not having to pay bus fares. He's got a freedom pass, even by this point, in his Mac. Yeah, I actually used to live near, I grew up near Des. I used to see him when I walked to school, walking his dog.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was he always...
He's always had two beauties, one on each arm in his silk pyjamas. I do see the silk pyjamas thing.
I was going to say, was your mum walking to school and she was go weak at the knees?
She was all a Twitter.
So we've bumped into Des again. That's weird.
I do remember it being a thing when we moved in that the neighbours would be like, you know, Des Lynam lives not far from it.
Bet they did, just by this story.
In his shag pad. Yeah. I'm still actually quite gripped by the fact that he just, like a fucking rom-com, just rang his neighbour's doorbell. I'm picturing that it's raining outside.
Yeah.
And just kissed her. There must have been, like, clear signs.
I think she said that he saw her naked through the window one time, which is a bit weird. She seems to sort of think that was quite romantic. He saw her from his window into her bedroom.
I think in the 90s that was considered romantic and now it's considered a sex crime. And another thing about the 90s that this really captures is like, honestly, before about 2005, male celebrities didn't need to be good looking. They just needed to be famous.
On TV.
Yeah.
It's going back to that thing of like, I guess by the 90s there were more TV channels, but a lot of people were watching Match of the Day.
Yeah, your options are just so limited for heartthrobs.
You won't get your highlights via Mark Goldbridge on YouTube.
Yeah, who's probably not heartthrob either. But you're right that basically everyone is watching BBC One, watching Match of the Day or like the FA Cup third round. And that, your options are basically Des, or maybe you'll get if you're watching ITV,
Got
you
Andy
might
Townsend maybe.
Yeah, you might get Gary Lineker in a crisp advert if you're watching ITV, and that is honestly how people used to get their kicks. And that was only I remember those years. I wasn't.
Yeah, I feel like it's slightly tainted my childhood memories now.
What of Des?
Yeah,
you want to view him as cuddly still.
I view him as this sort of kindly grandfather-like figure.
Yeah,
but,
everyone's favourite next door neighbour.
Yeah.
Then he comes around and knobs your mum in his silk dressing gown. I kind of see it, I have to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things, once you know, then it all makes sense.
He's ruined for me forever. Is he, he's still with us, isn't he?
Des is still in his silk dressing gown somewhere.
Yeah, and
cigar.
Send him our best.
Yeah.
Is there enough for a Des Lynam episode?
I mean, so the reason that we actually dug up this story was that we were looking for an angle for the Gary Lineker thing. It was like, Gary Lineker's fairly clean. His dad is
I think Gary Lineker has had some sort of like romantic excitement, but nothing like this.
Nothing like this. And we were sort of like, there's Des Lynam was before him, but he's pretty clean. And it's like, let me just double check.
Yeah.
And Google Des Lynam scandal, and it's like, oh, hello. Actually, it turns out that the 90s was a golden age for Match of the Day scandal. So in 1994, the beloved commentator Gerald Sinstadt was caught up in a bit of a police sting. So cops raided this Soho sex cinema and they found Gerald marooned in the sea of horny old buggers, cock in his hand. And he ended up being charged with gross indecency, I guess for like public exposure or something. The charges were later dropped, rightly so, might I say.
Yeah.
Because like, what else are you supposed to be doing in a Soho sex cinema? in any sex cinema?
Getting into the dialogue.
I mean, it's a weird concept, sex cinemas, I think.
Yeah, Gerald Sinstadt was quite a big deal at the time.
He was actually commentating on Match of the Day up until 2013, so he did bounce back from this scandal.
Rightly so, because he's done nothing wrong in my book.
Yeah.
That's where you get up to that sort of thing. And actually, Motti, we've talked about it before with his weird Viagra stuff.
Yeah.
John Mosson was a bit of a dirty dog as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you've got more Des Lynam stories, please, let's be having you.
Yeah, if you shagged Des Lynam in the 90s, please get in touch.
If you fell for his charisma. Found yourself over a candlelit meal, staring into those eyes. Felt the brush of his moustache on your groin. That's probably enough, Des. Could get quite fan fiction here.
Yeah. Obviously, Donald Trump won the US election last week, and he's currently busy putting together his new government. Elon Musk is in. Our old friend RFK has recovered from his brainworm to take charge of health, I think, which is quite a scary prospect considering his skepticism about vaccines.
And his brainworm, by the way.
And his brainworm, yeah. One man who'll have been watching the results closely was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So I imagine that as the results came in, Volodymyr was nervously thumbing in the dialing code for Mar-a-Lago, waiting to discover which way Caesar's thumb would turn. But when Zelensky found himself on hold, he probably assumed that Donald was, thrashing out a peace deal with the Ayatollah Khomeini or procuring a pack of rabid Alsatians for the Mexican border. But in fact, Trump had an even more pressing issue in his in tray, nailing down Ian Poulter's spot at the 2025 Ryder Cup. So when the results came in, wild number 3 Rory McIlroy announced his hope that Donald could finally bring peace to the one major conflict that is blighting our planet right now, the dispute between the PGA and Live Golf Tours. The biggie.
Yeah. So he basically wants the Saudis. I thought that was all resolved anyway, but it's not, is it?
No, so they're still sort of working out a way for them to merge their two tours.
What is he thinking? Well, Donald Trump knows how to deal with the Saudis, and he can get them. And who's the Aussie guy with the big dick who leads Live Golf? I forget his name. Whatever his fucking name is. Get him round the table with Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy.
To be fair to Rory, Trump said that it would take him 15 minutes to solve the the Live PGA dispute.
So maybe he will. But it's very Rory McIlroy to think that the only important thing in the world at that moment is the golf dispute. Like he's golf is life, obviously for him. But he genuinely probably thinks that is like one of the major issues.
Yeah, I mean, this was the day after the election results. Like,
you've got major wars going on.
Donald probably had some other issues.
Why can't Rory McIlroy just focus on the big stories of the day, like Des Lynam having sex in 1999?
Yeah, there are some biggies.
I actually think Trump will get involved in that, though.
Yeah. I should probably will actually make a deal.
Yeah. Say what you like about him.
Yeah. I mean, he does have a track record of getting results on the golf course by any means. Samuel L. Jackson told a story from a few years ago about playing golf with Trump, and he apparently hit the ball into a lake, and then moments later his ball just reappeared on the fairway. And there was another story from Trump's old caddy who said that Trump would, like, when his rival's ball lands on the green, Trump would just boot it into the bunker.
Yeah, he's a serious cheat.
He is, yeah. There's another story. Apparently, there's a plaque at his golf resort in Florida that lists him as the course champion in 1999, 2000, and 2009, which is slightly odd considering the golf course opened in the year 2000.
There was one last year as well where he was playing in a tournament and he had to go away for some event somewhere else, so he missed the first day of the tournament. And so he was like, oh, don't worry, I played around on this course last week and I shot like 65, so let's just count that. So it was the best score for that round. He won the tournament.
So good.
I love it. It's brazen.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that his friends nickname him Commander-in-Cheat?
Yeah, that's his nickname on the golf course, apparently, which is quite good. Do you remember last year as well, there was a video, or it wasn't even a video, there was a story came out that Trump had supposedly got a hole-in-one on the golf course, and he released like an official statement with like Trump headed paper, like explaining the entire hole-in-one and how it definitely happened.
Yeah, it was. He was protesting quite a lot.
Yeah. Actually, while we're on the subject of Trump, there was a great tweet this week about his son Barron. So you know Barron, sort of like Gary Barlow's son, is really tall. He's 6'9". Yeah. He's 18 years old.
He does look so tall.
He's enormous. He like towers over Trump. Trump's also tall. I think Trump's 6'3" or something like that. Anyway, Barron towers over him. Anyway, there was this tweet that went quite big that read, as Barron Trump grows, he is illustrating in real time my concept of how you get more impressive with height until you hit a point where you start to get less impressive for not being in the NBA.
Agree with that. What's the line? Sort of 6'3". No, like 6'6".
Yeah, I mean, if you're that tall, then
yeah. If you're not playing professional basketball and you're American at that height, it's like your hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, there's something up.
Yeah.
So, when you break up with someone, there's a few ways you can go. You can take the high road, remain friends, maybe grab a coffee once in a while. There's the nuclear option. You can burn everything from the Alton Towers ticket stubs to the propagated cheese plant that they gave you last Christmas. Or, like former NBA star Lamar Odom, you can cling on forever by driving out to a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Las Vegas and pay a seedy bloke to 3D print a haunting life-size replica of your ex. So Lamar broke up with his ex-wife, Khloe Kardashian, back in 2016. And 8 years on, he is clearly very well adjusted. He's adapted well to single life.
He's over it.
Which is why he has commissioned an $8,000 sex doll of Khloe's likeness. So a video came out this week of Lamar being shown around the sex doll factory by the owner. And they sort of go back into a back room of this warehouse where they open a crate to reveal a doll which I would describe as having a passing resemblance to Khloe Kardashian.
Let's have a look. There was a headline that came up there: Lamar Odom, golden ticket to sex doll factory. Is that a Willy Wonka reference? Oh right, is that it?
For some reason, they've decided to blur out the
naked bits.
The naked bits of the sex.
Which
dolls.
one's Khloe? Because there's various.
No, this is his tour of the factory.
Why are they all standing like that?
They're going to crack open the crate in a minute.
This is like a haunting iRobot style vision of humans being grown on trees.
So they crack open the crate, and this guy is sort of he's showing Lamar the doll of Chloe.
He's having a feel.
He looks a bit like he looks like a car salesman who's explaining. It's like obviously you've got a
4-speed transmission.
It's got
that new car smell.
Yeah,
that new doll smell.
Obviously you've got rear suspension on this one, which
plenty of. Lamar's just gripped her boobs.
He squeezed her boobs.
He's now squeezing her thigh and calf. Oh. Is he basically checking if it feels like her?
Yeah, so he sort of squeezes her boobs and looks at the guy and sort of nods. It's like, yeah, you've done a pretty good job on those, actually.
Yeah, the guy looks really proud of his work as well.
Does it look much like Khloe Kardashian?
I think maybe the sort of like measurements do. That seems to be what Lamar's most interested in.
Yeah. It's a very strange thing to do.
Is it? It's a sex doll, right?
It's a sex. Yeah.
It's got genitalia.
Yeah. Working.
It hasn't got the mouth I picture on a sex doll, the sort of open mouth. What's going on with the head?
He's checking the fingers as well.
Yeah, interesting choice.
I guess they're bendable.
Oh, God. Yeah, the face is the face of a generic mannequin.
Yeah.
But the boobs are quite big, so I wonder if that's... I reckon he's submitted her vital measurements.
Yeah. It's a very strange thing to do by a sex doll. 8 years after he split up.
Completely over it. This is how over it he is.
Yeah.
And then what, you're meant to sort of cuddle up to it. Presumably it gets quite cold. What is it made of? Silicon?
Silicon, yeah.
You put it in the microwave like your mate with the fleshlight. Actually, after we told that fleshlight story, I had DMs from like random people being like, "Where did you hear that story?" Because I know someone it happened to as well.
Really,
I looked into
microwave
it.
one?
Yeah, looked into it. Different person. So
it's probably a thing, a done thing.
Yeah,
with fleshlights.
Yeah. Hack.
I wouldn't know. Actually, this sex doll story reminded me of a time I went to a. No, I remember being when I was a kid in this like second-hand shop in France somewhere, and they just had like old furniture and clothes and old bikes or whatever. And then on the top shelf there were about 6 sex dolls in their cardboard boxes, used presumably.
How do you know they're used?
Well, the boxes looked a bit knackered.
Oh, God. Been opened a few times.
Yeah. She's like, who's buying it?
Why are they rentals?
No, it was like a second-hand shop.
Oh, God.
Oh, awful.
I was like, who's buying a second-hand sex doll?
Where Luana Alonso's feet spotted nearby.
Yeah.
I feel like what Lamar Odom is doing might be made a crime in the next sort of 8 years. Is it sort of like revenge porn?
Yeah. It's definitely weird.
You can imagine you like start dating him, Lamar, and he's like, they're like, obviously I know you went out with Khloe Kardashian, she's pretty famous, and he's like, I'm completely over it. And you come round to his house. There's like pictures of her everywhere on the wall, and then you open a cupboard, this doll spills out. With like loads of her hair. Completely over her, yeah. Well, we're just still really good friends. You know?
It's just, it's just for the memories, really.
I can't chuck out a thing like this. I mean, it's a work of art. Imagine that being your job, making them as well.
Imagine he's like, do you mind grabbing something from the garage? And you go in, it's like looking for a tin of paint.
There's a museum of Khloe Kardashian haunting replicas staring back at you. Not to get too crude, but the post-coitus guilt you would feel after making love to a sex doll of your ex, as its face stared blankly back at you.
Yeah, then you bump into her in the supermarket.
Yeah, oh God, I can't look at you. That's how it ends up in a second-hand shop, probably.
I mean, to be fair, if they cost $8,000, I can see why people are getting them second-hand.
$8,000?
$8,000 for that. Apparently, they range from $8,000 to $20,000,
depending on likeness.
Or maybe there's sort of.
What do you think a better
parts.
Kardashian costs more? A Kim or a Kendall Jenner, a more famous Kardashian.
Yeah.
Presumably that company is actually making quite good money because you just need like
interchangeable parts for Kendall.
Yeah. You just need like 15 sickos a year and you're in the big bucks.
Yeah. It's a good industry.
Would you maybe consider selling dolls of ourselves for fans?
For $8,000, if we get a car, I'll do.
Yeah, a lot less.
So Jack, we like an exotic sport on here. Hot dog eating conquers the Iditarod dog sled race. But I think I have found the dumbest sport on earth, power slapping. So, you've probably seen clips of it online. The sport's run by Dana White, the UFC guy, which is very on brand. And basically competitors take it in turns to slap each other in the face until one of them either gives up or is so concussed they can no longer continue. But there was a clip doing the rounds this week of a new star of the power slapping world bursting onto the scene. It's a 5'9", 350-pound Siberian farmer who goes by the name of Dumpling, who knocks his opponent unconscious with one slap.
Get ready.
Oh God. Oh my God.
It is grim.
Yeah. I think you'd have tinnitus after that forever.
I think
I'd rather be punched in the face than have that.
Slapped. Yeah. I mean, you're picturing, there's a lot of stuff in the news about former footballers and rugby players complaining about concussion from heading the ball and various things, and if they've got concussion from heading the ball, what are these guys going to end up with?
There's the moment of pain on his face just before he actually seems to
his eyes roll
go
back
unconscious, and he's just like, oh, I'll be honest, it's quite a good watch.
Yeah.
Is this sport legal? Presumably they're doing it out. They're probably in Siberia. That's how Dumpling came to participate.
Yeah.
Good brand, Dumpling.
Yeah. I guess you could say it's wanton violence.
What's it? A crispy wonton. Yeah, that's good. Bear written down. Did you bring that entire story to the pod just so you could crack the wonton violence joke?
No, I would not do that. I would not spend 3 minutes setting up one pun.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Yaz.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.